Well, good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you again for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started, so if you could please take your seats. If you're coming in, come on in. If somebody's standing at the aisle trying to find a space, if you could just slide your seat over so they can jump in. We should have plenty of seats in here. Welcome back. My name is Paige Ciplon. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Center of Innovation for Logistics, and I'm your host for the Georgia Logistics Summit this year. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. Thank you again to our sponsors. Thank you to Maersk for being our lunch sponsor this afternoon. Thank you to all the other sponsors that you'll see and hear about throughout this afternoon and the next day or so. Specific thanks to our sponsor, Vanderland, for the notepads and the seats, and an extra special thank to our sponsors of the Georgia counties of Bullock and Lawrence County, home of Statesboro and Dublin, two very logistically friendly cities, it's a mouthful, with easy access to ports and major interstate networks. They're also no stranger to manufacturing, lots of manufacturing companies in that neck of the woods, as well as many places across Georgia. And also the logistics of manufacturing, which is the title of this session that we put together for you today. We have a great panel of industry experts in manufacturing and logistics and how they do their business. But to moderate this discussion, we're also pleased to have Jim Barnes, who's the Managing Director of Services with the Institute of Supply Management. You may be familiar with ISM for multiple reasons, but specifically the PMI, or the Purchasing Management Index, I think I said that right, which is a manufacturing barometer that is closely watched throughout the United States for what's happening in manufacturing and how it's faring. I see a lot of nodding heads. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Jim and introduce our panel.
Okay. Thank you, Paige. Okay, well, we have a good group of panelists here today and kind of a wide range of industries. First, to my right, we have Jack Rittenhouse, who's the Director of Logistics Operations for AGCO. AGCO is a global leader focused on the design, manufacture, and distribution of agricultural machinery. And next to him, we have Monty Galbraith. And Monty is one of the last remaining textile guys left in the United States, so I hope you have a lot of questions for him. But he's the president of Denim Textiles Group. Denim is privately held company based in Columbus, Georgia, and I think you'll find him quite interesting. And then next to him, we have Bob Fisher. Bob is the CEO of Wesley International. Wesley International is America's premier provider of forklift-free, I had to say that a few times, material handling solutions. And he has a very entertaining presentation coming up as well. And then last but certainly not least, we have Randy Nation of Boeing. He's the Senior Manager of Design Logistics, and you all know who Boeing is, the big aircraft manufacturer. So we'll kick it right off with Jack first with a presentation. We're all going to do about a 15-minute presentation, and then we'll have a bunch of questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the AGCO side of the equation. Okay. For those of you who are not familiar with AGCO, we manufacture all kinds of farm equipment across the world. This presentation here is about supply chain transformation and the supporting logistics requirements behind that supply chain transformation. Now, oddly enough, in this particular case, the logistics side of the transformation occurred about 3 years before the supply chain side actually occurred. So that's a little bit of the story here, and what we're going to try and do is explain that, explain some of the methodologies that we used in taking a look at the transition, the approach, and the results, and some of the key success factors that we've had. By way of introduction, I'll talk first about the company and the industry, and then get into the strategy a little bit. AGCO is about $11 billion in sales in total. Most of that is made up in the European area. We have tractors and combines and so on that we sell in Europe. We are a very large player in Europe, if not second, very close to first. In South America, we are the dominant player. We are bigger than Deere in that particular area. And then you all know Deere in North America, and they dominate the industry. But that makes up about 26% of our total revenue, with Europe and making up about 50% of the total revenue. Full range of products, everything from mower decks, small tractors, combines, large tractors, track tractors, and so on, but everything agricultural. So we are the leading pure play ag equipment company in the world. Now, does that mean we're bigger than Deere? The answer is no, we are not, but they're not pure play. They deal with things other than agriculture. So Again, $11 billion. Markets are growing. We have a lot of leading brands, which I'll get to in a little bit. We've got a network of about 3,100 dealers. That dealer network is actually being consolidated significantly across the globe, and we operate in about 140 different countries. This will just give you an idea of some of the things that we actually produce. If you look, we've got tractors, harvesting equipment, hay equipment application. We do all kinds of seeding applications. We have a replacement part operation. They have over 1 million parts that are active in their system, and again, that is global. And then we picked up some protein production operations and some storage and handling operations. If you look across the bottom, I'll kind of give you an array of what we're dealing with. When I first walked in the door at AGCO, I didn't know a whole lot about what we were going to be shipping, and I couldn't figure out how to get one of those on a truck. So now they've introduced GSI, and I still don't know how to get that big center bin on a truck. But bottom line is that we do produce a lot of products. Massey Ferguson, probably the most noteworthy in North America. GSI, which is out of Central Illinois, which manufactures the storage bins. Fendt, which is the Cadillac of tractors. And then our Challenger brand, again, North America, we sell that through our Cat dealerships. And Valtro, which we don't sell here in North America, so you probably don't recognize that one. So, how did this happen? Managing a global transition with a supply base. If you look at this chart here, what it shows is that we are going to be growing and haven't necessarily grown that supply base. We're going global with the supply base. In the past, everything was within, say, 1,000 miles of our plants. What we have found is that by putting this together, making a global buying decision for each one of the commodities or each one of the types of parts that we need to bring into the equation, we can take this globally. Now, globally means that we are looking at the best cost country. It's very dynamic. It moves all the time. Your supply base is actively working, and that's one of the key things that we had to do when we're looking at the logistics side of the network. We have global suppliers and we have global customers, and we tend to move things back and forth. One of the other things that we're doing, which is very interesting, we got involved in a project a little while ago, and we brought high horsepower tractors back from France into Jackson, Minnesota, and we are now assembling that in Jackson, Minnesota. And so we're nearshoring some of the assembly work. So as you start to take a look at the supply chain, you can start to see that the parts are going out from the local areas, but then the assembly is coming back in. So this is a very dynamic and very changing environment that we're dealing with. So the requirement that we had was, how do you support the change? Well, we started off and we designed a flexible network. We looked at the entire organization from top to bottom. We redefined what logistics was and how it's going to occur, and how we're going to get the product to the suppliers and then eventually to the customer. So we're trying to support those organizations. We tried to provide a 20% up or down factor on any given day. So we stress test this network back in the 2008-2009 time frame, and that was because volumes had dropped off due to the economy. And so it gave us a perfect opportunity to jump in and take a look at this. We partner with a lot of logistics providers that are strong in the particular geography that we're dealing with, and we drive upstream and downstream impacts. A lot of those are occurring in productivities and efficiencies that we drive into the organization from the logistics organization. Just to take a look at how we approach this, we went through a lot of planning. That was a network assessment, a scope and definition. We looked at the business impact. How are we going to resource this, and then how do we communicate this across the employees, the suppliers, and also the customers? Then we got into the hardcore implementation of this. This is roughly in the 2009 timeframe. This is for North America. We took North America first. You can see up in the right-hand box that South America, I had the honor of going down there and duplicating what we did in North America and down in South America. In Europe, it started off in 2009. It kind of collapsed under the weight of the culture. It was a very central culture. It was a very product-oriented culture, and so we are restarting that back again in 2013, and we are also expanding into Asia-Pacific at that point in time. Implementation, We got hard and fast with the carrier negotiations and the contracts. We put systems in place. We also took our assembly centers, which are located at various ports around the United States, so that we're closer to the customer. We don't have to bring everything inland. If you look at North America, all of our plants are obviously located in the grain belts and so on, and we are up in the upper Midwest with most of our plants. So bringing it into those locations and then shipping it back out to, say, someone in the Northwest doesn't make any sense. We took a very hard look at packaging engineering. We weren't very efficient in how we were shipping, and packaging made all the difference in the world, and we continue to work that one. And then taking a look at network optimization. So all this was in place in 2009. We did stress test it, and as that volume grew, we have almost doubled the volume we had in 2009 in 2013. And so we were able to stress test it both down and up. So now where we're going is we're globalizing. We're taking a look at this network and we're moving it across the globe by putting in consolidation centers and control towers. We're designing for logistics and we're designing for manufacturing so that we can take things directly from the supplier into the line. Again, an expansion of the logistics role. We're doing a lot of supplier collaboration. We've got new systems coming in place for that. We're looking at visibility systems and how we can enhance the visibility so we know exactly where these things are in the supply chain. We can pre-receive them in and move them directly into the manufacturing line. And then we've got things like sequencing operations for our Jackson, Minnesota plant, which is working very well, but that is sequencing and kitting for that organization. Again, this is more of a global optimization. So we've taken it from the North American perspective and put it into a global perspective. So how did we do this? Well, we took a look at the organization itself. We started off with the organizational structure. We got senior management to buy into the concept. This is, again, before I got into the equation here. But we had them preaching the new logistics model. Okay, we did a skills assessment across the board. There were a lot of people who were traffic managers and who were very good people, and they just didn't make the cut because we're changing what we do. If you look at that circle, we impact each and every one of these various areas: finance, manufacturing, purchasing, and so on. Support services for the customer service, and then all the aftermarket support for the suppliers. We touch every piece of this. Now, this is not intended to show that we're logistics central as an operation. This just said that there's a lot of interaction that has to occur beyond traffic management. So we changed the structure of the organization. We looked at it this way, and we said, this is what we need to do. And I'll get into the discussion about can a 3PL and a 4PL deliver across the board, and then some of the common goals that we set at all levels. So I have some of the same goals that my marketing counterparts do. I have the same goals that the finance counterparts do. So we structured it that way. So why this approach? We're the last customer and the last supplier touch point. We're the only operation in the entire organization that is truly cross-functional. We can make a difference in the sale. We can make a difference by having the material there, by making sure it's manufactured on time and getting it through the production lines. Okay? It's a revenue generator. What we didn't realize previously is we have the capability of charging for our services. We got working capital reductions. We got the inventory to the manufacturing plants a lot faster, and we took over some of the inventory control that we're working with. We're now taking over the material side of the business, so we will manage this stuff into the line. So all of this and a lot of this was through control, through collaboration right across the board. This is a little bit complicated, but essentially this is what we use. This is the picture of the model that we use to be able to assess who are we and what do we need to do. Do we need to bring in 4PLs and 3PLs? And as you go across from left to right, typically what we find is that you can get pretty far with some of the simple stuff. As you get more complex, as you get more complex arrays in your product line, as you have more global suppliers that are coming in and you need to combine those, your investments in IT, your investments in the infrastructure all grow. And this shows that that becomes exponential at some point in time. When we go out and take a look at a 3PL or a 4PL, we look to see where they fit in this model. Now, most 3PLs and 4PLs, and this is nothing against them, they're niche players in some areas. They don't go across this entire spectrum. They may go across 2/3 of it, but how do you fill in the gaps that you have with your own organization? We did the same thing with our organization. We looked at it this way, and we said, what is it we would need to invest to be able to get this from the left-hand side to the right-hand side as we grow the business? So the bottom line is that we decided that we were going to bring this in-house. We had a lot of expertise. We changed out some of the folks that were in the organization previously, and we looked at our own capabilities. Then we came back and we filled in the gaps. And we filled in the gaps with a lot of strategic partners with 3PLs and 4PLs, where they were good, where we needed them. Okay, this is the North American, South America model. In Europe, they're taking a different tact. And that different tact is they are going out and working with a 4PL to handle most of what they need to do because they need to get up and running very quickly. We've had the capabilities over the last couple of years. Europe is behind us. Okay, so this is our network in Europe, and we talk about globalization. This is really three-dimensional because North America, South America, and Europe all have, at one point in time, had that as our network. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? We were moving a whole lot of product from plants and suppliers all over the place. So what we're evolving to, and we've done this in North America too, this just shows the example here, is we're taking this and we're consolidating it down. We're taking the North American volume, the South American volume, and the European volume, picking it up from the supplier at that same day. So it's just stratifying what we've got, looking at how to best move it through consolidation centers, put it on the ocean, or bring it directly into the plant through control towers. Okay, so strategic decision was internal logistics team, but we rely heavily on the 3PL partners. And down below just kind of shows some of the areas that we look at. We've got dedicated fleet management, milk runs, warehousing, sequencing service that are done on the outside, and then we do a lot of the other items internally. Okay, packaging. I mentioned before the packaging was critical for us. If you look at this, if you start off in the top left-hand side, and I'm sorry that's not real clear, but essentially that is that piece of that cab that comes across. We've done the packaging. It is vertical packaging. And what happens is we've been able to transform that. So now, instead of getting 6 pre-assembled cabs in each container, we can get 24. So there's a lot of money in that. We reduced a significant number of containers that are coming across. That's an example. On the sequencing side of the business, you can see where the global packaging standards, what we've done is that we've taken the line side sequence delivery, we've taken and we've moved the packaging out of there. We have made an incredible amount of money on packaging and efficiencies. Okay, this is something else that we talked about a little bit earlier. This is nearshoring made in America. We brought a tractor assembly operation into Jackson, Minnesota. You can actually go into this facility, look through the glass, and watch your tractor being made. Now you got to time it right, but that is what's behind it. We have 3PLs in Europe that source this for us, that source the product. They manage that entire thing. We have a sequencing center that is going into place. It is being run very effectively to get the kits and the inventory to the lines. And then, again, once it's released, we put it on a truck and deliver that out. We are looking at that as a global model. We're going to go to localized manufacturing, but we're going to global supply chain. Okay. I'll skip that for a second here. So what are the results of this? If you look at this across the board, we've saved down in the bottom left-hand side, anywhere from 11% to about 4.5% in terms of the total. And this is based on a price, dollars of transportation as a result of the total. And you see 6.6%. The key thing about this is cumulative. So we've taken almost 40% of the cost or more out of the equation over the course of the last 5 years. And so that's allowed us to do some levels of reinvestment. So what are our keys to success? We've got 10% of our costs under attack at all times. We've got common goals across the organization. We've got financial and operational accountability. We own it. We're the voice of the customer, and we're the voice of the customer design. And in other cases, we've leveraged some of these negotiations, but the bottom line is we reinvested, even in 2008 and 2009, we reinvested back into the business so we could continue to to work this and make it profitable. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you from AGCO.
Thank you, Jack. That was quite a transformation. I'm sure there'll be more questions about that in a little bit here. All right, I'm going to invite up Monty Galbraith, and here we go.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, everybody. Paige, thank you for inviting me to come visit with you today. This is my first time to this event. I actually was invited by Paige a couple months ago, and you know, when you get caught at a weak moment, you'll agree to do anything. A few weeks ago, I called Paige, and he told me how many of you there were going to be. So it's a real pleasure to be here with you today. As far as logistics go, I told Paige that the thing that I just expect on logistics, I just expect it to work. We're a relatively small company. What you just heard here from Jack was an enormous global company. We are a relatively small company. We're privately held. But what we have, I think, a pretty unique story, and I just want to share it with you briefly this morning. And so here we go. Anytime we start off something, I like to position, where are we? Denham North America is in Columbus, Georgia. And for those of you who have never been to Columbus before, we're on the far west side of the state of Georgia. We are literally right up against Alabama. That river is the Chattahoochee River. Those of you from Atlanta, it all flows down through Columbus. That's the Chattahoochee River. Just on the other side of the river is Alabama. What you'll notice there is old buildings, and I think this picture really represents what's going on in Columbus today. Those buildings in the background are old textile mills. That's, in fact, an old Fieldcrest Cannon mill in the back and an Eagle and Phoenix mill in the front that has been repurposed into restaurants and condominiums, and those are all up and down the river. Why are they there in Columbus? Is because the river falls so dramatically there. Over 100 years ago, they dammed up the rivers through there to harness the power of the river, and textile mills were built all in through the area. So Columbus has a long, rich history of textiles. Today, we have one of the lucky towns that have been able to transition from a working-class, blue-collar textile mill town into an insurance and a banking industry. The building in the foreground is the Synovus, which is a global financial group, and of course, all of you know Aflac, and that's based in Columbus. We are the last textile company left in Columbus, and I'll tell you about that in just a little bit, but that kind of gives you an idea of where we start from. A brief history, DNA Textile Group was built in 1998. It was built by Marubeni Corporation, which was one of the largest companies in the world. It's a trading house that built the place. It was a greenfield operation. Their initial investment was in about $85 million. A group of us took it private from them in May of 2002, and we renamed the company Denham North America. It's about 260,000 square feet, full of the most advanced, most modern textile equipment available at the time it was built, and it is the last weaving facility that was built in this country. We have 250 very dedicated employees. One of the nice things about coming from the area like Columbus is that you have a pretty deep talent pool. One of our challenges, though, that we're all getting older. How do we get young people, how do we get kids to come into our business? And the grain and the aging of our workforce is something that we do have to work with. On an annual basis, we can make about 24 million yards of fabric. That's about 20 million that's about 20 million jeans on an annual basis out of the facility. Our business units, we have two. Our main business unit is Denham North America. And if you will, for a second, let me tell you a little bit about our logo. That we selected the logo of the bison because we felt very strongly that the bison and the textile industry had kind of a joined history together. You know, the bison were abundant, they were everywhere, just like the textile industry was. And then through carelessness and mismanagement, it was almost wiped out. But with the foresight and the resolution of a few strong-willed folks who were willing to put their considerable resources and their talents behind it, the buffalo was saved, and it is now an iconic figure of strength and vitality in the U.S., and we think that that's what that logo represents for our company. And I'm happy to tell you today it's probably one of the most recognizable logos in our industry. I love to tell that story. Just recently, 2 years ago, as the apparel business continues to come under attack, we opened up another division called DNA Technical Fabrics. Frankly, that is a non-apparel fabric group that we operate out of part of the existing facility, and we also have other facilities right down the street from where we are. That is, it's funny, that picture just kind of, picture's worth 1,000 words. You know, you can always tell when you use that. That comes from one of our marketing campaigns, and if it's, some guys get fired up about the car. Some folks get fired up about the girl, but nonetheless, that is some from our marketing campaigns. The technical side of the business, as you can see, is clearly not technical. That is a customer of ours named Trailborg that makes composite marine bearings. We make the fabric that goes into making those composite materials. Let me walk you through real quickly the plant. When we took the plant private, we elected not to take on the spinning. So in other words, we don't buy cotton and open it up and turn it into yarn. We knew that our mix and our product mix was going to be so diverse that we didn't want to be pigeonholed with one capability or not. And there are still enough good yarn vendors out to choose from. So we bring in the yarn, and if you imagine, it comes in and looks like a cheese, like an old Wisconsin cheese head. It comes in like a cheese. We rack them up. We run it, and we pull all those ends off the end, and we put it into ropes. This is a 24-position rope range. It's one of the coolest things you'll ever want to see. If you ever get a chance to see this, this is where the magic starts with denim. As you can see, it's dipping, and we take it through a couple of baths of dip, and every time it goes up, it oxidizes, and then we come and put another layer of indigo on it. And that's what you get when you start washing your jeans and it starts falling off. And it's because of the way, indigo dyeing, frankly, is a very primitive dye. But it's what we love, and that's what you see in this process of dyeing. It's a very imperfect but a very important part of the process. Through a few more processes, we take it through our weave room. We have 110 air-jet weave rooms in our denim facility. Those will weave about 850 picks per minute. You can see the fabric just rolling off of there. And compared to some of the old weave rooms, there's very, very few people. It's very, very automated. So we can crank out a lot of denim in a day. On our technical side, you can see it looks completely different. That's a polyester where you're on the denim side, it was all cottons. This side, it's all synthetic fibers that are used in this process. It all goes through finishing. This just so happens to be our denim finishing range. We have another technical finishing range in a building right down the street. Warehouse is pretty straightforward. This is our denim warehouse. We roll it in. It's all located in the systems that you guys are the logistics experts. You're very familiar with this. We pack it on containers and trucks. It's very, very simple, but it's very moving around rolls of fabric with a forklift. You've got to be very, very careful. That's our distribution center. We have at the denim facility. We have 4 bays for everything coming in and going out. That happens to be VF, one of our larger accounts, who own several nationally known brands. We have, because of the warehouse and because they drop off containers for different ships, we have 2 what we call yard dogs to move containers around and keep it going. Our suppliers, like I mentioned to you, some of you may or may not recognize these suppliers. These are suppliers that are predominantly in the Southeast. This is our yarn and our chemical makeup. These are predominantly in the States. And where they come in, as you can see, these come in from our technical fabrics. They come in, all our supplies come in predominantly in the Southeast. We've got one yarn that we bring in from Mexico. On denim, you can see it all comes in, again, predominantly from the Southeast. We've got one vendor, if you see over there in Mexico, it's actually a Chinese company that we developed some fabric with, some yarn with, that does a terrific job for us, and we bring it all the way in from Mexico. So our inbound shipments look pretty much like this. It's kind of a local business. It all comes in on truck, and it's a relatively easy to manage because it's a very finite group of folks that we work with. Here are some of our customers. These guys represent anything from filtration to automotive to protective fabrics. There's one in there, the Band-Aids, the cloth on Band-Aids. We make the fabric for the cloth on the Band-Aids. Again, this business is about 2.5 years old now. And I always say I wish we had started about 5 years ago. This is a terrifically exciting business. And when you look at where those shipments go, they stay all in the U.S. And it's predominantly an East Coast account. It's in the Midwest and the upper Northeast. That shipment out to Oregon actually goes by train out there. That's for the composite bearings. Here's the brands that you will probably recognize. If you have worn their jeans, we've probably done business with them at one time or another. These brands are brands in the U.S. and in those two brands on the far right-hand side, those are actually brands that we've developed out of Mexico that are the two dominant brands in Mexico. Here's where we interact with our customers. We have a showroom and a design center in New York. We have a development center in Los Angeles, in downtown Los Angeles, where we work with some of the brightest designers making garments and washing them up. Los Angeles is the heart and soul of the denim business. You see up in San Francisco, that's where Gap and Levi and Old Navy, so we have a sales office there. Then our Mexico City office is very, very busy, either supporting work that is going on in the States or generating business on its own. People ask me all the time, how do you remain competitive? And it's really not complicated. It's all about innovation. You know, I tell our folks all the time, if you don't have something important to say or interesting to show a customer, don't call them. They expect something from you. And we've got to be interesting and we've got to be important all the time or quickly they will move away from us. We've got to be nimble and easy to do business with because we're never, ever the lowest price. And we need to work with a sense of urgency and always pay attention to detail. So it's not terribly complicated, and you notice that we don't talk about price, which is always a key part of it, but we never, ever compete on price. It's really about those three things: innovation, service, and speed. Just wanted to get your attention back on the show. These are some of our customers. This is how they speak to you. These are ads that you will recognize out of your magazines. In fact, these three customers, I get to put my jeans back on tonight and fly out to LA to meet with actually all three of these tomorrow. And this is how we talk to them. We have to put together lines of fabric, and we put together lines and we present it to them in a finished garment form where we brand it, and where when the designers are looking at, they're not looking at a piece of fabric, they're not even thinking about textiles. They're evaluating our view of the world, where we send our design team around the world, many times in conjunction with them, to come back and say, this is the fabric for next season, this is our interpretation of it, and this is why it's important for you to put it in your line. This was from our fall-winter collection just a few months ago, and this is our spring-summer collection that was just released. But since we're a logistics thing, let's get back to outbound shipments. Real quickly, our outbound shipments, there's very, very little in the apparel business that goes in the States. In fact, that little arrow that shoots up into the Carolinas, that's actually our closeout and off goods. There's a little bit of business down in El Paso, Texas, which is 20 years ago, it was the capital of the jeans wear world. I mean, it was amazing how many jeans were made in El Paso, Texas. And then, of course, Los Angeles. There's still some of your premium brands do make some of their jeans in Los Angeles. But given today's retail environment, those brands are coming under increasing pressure to move things south. Since we're in the state of Georgia, let's go through the ports that we do ship it. Everything, 95% of everything that we ship gets on a container to go to a port or goes to a border crossing to go roll across the border and go south. Out of Savannah, we ship it into Cartagena. There's a big jeans manufacturing group in Medellin, and we ship it to Cartagena, and it goes through the mountains up into Medellin. You see that we ship to China and we ship to Vietnam. The pending TPP agreements will greatly affect whether those lines are on here this time next year. Outbound, we also ship out of Charleston. You can see we ship a lot of fabric to Nicaragua and to Mexico, and a little bit into the Yucatan Peninsula. We also ship out of Miami. That Miami is predominantly to Guatemala, but you see we also ship into Colombia and to Dominican Republic. Panama City, which may come as a surprise to you. As you can see, Panama City is just literally across the way to Merida, which is in the Yucatan Peninsula, and there's a lot of customers have plants in that area. And it's pretty much a straight shot drop down into Nicaragua. The overland routes are really two. We go to Laredo, and it's interesting, when it goes to Laredo, it used to be that we used to ship most of our stuff overland to these 2 points that we'll go to in a second. But because of security issues, a lot of things, they try to take the path of least resistance. and try to have those trucks not rolling on the ground as much as possible. A truckload of denim fabric in particular is well in excess of $100,000. And hijacking of those trucks was a huge problem. And so a lot of these customers, that's why you see so much of it being floated into the port of nearest demarcation so that they can not have those trucks rolling on the road as little as possible. A lot out into El Paso, into northern and central Mexico. So if you look at our business, you remember the old giant suction sound of where all the business was? All that not too long ago was going to North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, a lot of it into Texas. And as you can see now, it all flows port south. It's just the way it is. Matter of fact, we've been doing it so long now, you almost don't remember how it was. But the thing that I think is really interesting is if you look at our technical business, look, it all stays in the States. It all flows northward, and obviously we're trying to get to where we can grow that business as much as possible. For those of you who have never been in a textile plant, I want to take just a few seconds to show you there are some good people still got a short video I'd like to share with you. Attention. I hope all of you have a very successful meeting for the next couple of days. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know about you, but I found that very inspiring, Monty. Thanks a lot. Another inspiring story coming from Bob. Come on up, Bob.
Thanks, Jim. Good afternoon. First, a big disclaimer. I'm not a logistics expert. In fact, people from my company took a look at the program I was speaking on, and I got a big laugh. So, but I do have a big logistics problem, and I really think that's why I'm here. My company's Wesley International, and our primary brand today is Pack Mule. The Pack Mule, we make electric industrial equipment that moves things in industrial facilities, manufacturing facilities, and distribution centers horizontally. Stock chasers, tow vehicles and the towable carts, personnel carriers, maintenance vehicles, etc. While you may not have heard of our company, you do know most of the companies that we help be more productive. 80% of our customers are what I call power users. Power users are companies like the companies represented here, and probably the companies that many of you represent. They have large facilities, many of them, and they're multi-shift. They are very focused on productivity and measure productivity in seconds and in pennies. They know that if the equipment they have breaks down, it can cost them more than the original cost of the equipment, just in the cost of downtime alone. So our products are preferred, we think, by power users. Why? We're very much like, I would say, DeWalt versus Black & Decker. A professional carpenter, a real craftsman, if you will, is not going to buy the Black & Decker drill that I buy. He's going to spend probably anywhere from 5 to 10 times as much as I'm going to pay to get the very best tool that's available to him. Because he knows if the battery doesn't hold up, if the product doesn't last, the time he's going to waste going to get a new one is going to be probably more than the most expensive drill on the shelf. So what's our value proposition to power users? Reliability, durability, sufficient runtime, low or no maintenance, and the next two are really important to the dilemma I face. Configured to application. We configure each product to the specific application that the customer has, and we make it to order to achieve the goals of that specific application. The capacity, maneuverability, ergonomics, etc. And value. So the two elements here that I really want to emphasize are configured to application and value. Why is configured to application important? I mean, what we do is all about productivity. The deck capacity, the size, the weight carrying capacity, the towing capacity, 2,000, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 pounds towing capacity. Runtime. Runtime is really important, and I'll get to that a little more in a moment. And speed. The computers in each of our products today are incredibly powerful. There are 35 or more configurable characteristics in each one of those. One of them is speed, of course, acceleration, forward speed, reverse speed, braking. So I mentioned runtime. Within our products, each one of our products has anywhere from 50 to 100 different permutations, depending on the characteristics that the customer chooses for their application. We have 24 volt, 36 volt, 48 volt. We have commercial batteries, we have industrial batteries. We have slide-out battery exchanges. We offer lithium-ion, AGM, lead acid, and an array of chargers to meet the specific requirements and algorithms for these batteries and the application. Maintenance is an incredibly important thing, primarily because customers, even the power users, do not do the maintenance properly. So lead-acid batteries are expensive to maintain and require watering, of course. Maintenance-free AGMs and lithium ions do not require that, but are considerably more expensive. Pneumatic tires require airing, of course, and if you don't air them, it immediately detracts from your runtime. And then, of course, you have the risk of flats. Soft solid tires eliminate the maintenance in that regard. So, my dilemma. How can we do configured to application to California from Georgia, we're located here in Atlanta, and still deliver value? We, like all of you, I'm sure, are strong advocates of lean. And lean, as you know, is about eliminating waste. Waste is an ugly subject, but it is a very important one for us to understand. And waste is in the mind of the customer. What does the customer not want, and particularly not want to pay for? So is freight waste? That's an appropriate topic, I think, for a logistics group. So what do you think? I would imagine that most of you, like me, do a lot of shopping at Amazon these days. And I also suspect that most of you are Amazon Prime customers. Why? Because you think freight is waste. If you're a Prime customer, you don't pay freight. And that saves you an awful lot of money. For us to create a unit, a stock chaser, let's say, here in Atlanta, and to ship it in the Southeast costs us about $150 a unit to deliver it to the end user. If we're shipping it to California, however, it costs us over $450, so 3 times as much. Waste to customer, over $300 per unit. That's huge. So the variation as a percentage of our total cost of the product, we're talking about in the Southeast, somewhere in the range of 3%, 3.5% of the cost of production. If we're talking California, we're talking 12 or more percent. So a very significant element in the overall cost equation. Our competitors here, Cushman, for example, in Augusta, they can deliver 21 standard units, again, not configured to order. We're the only player in the industry that's focused on configured to order for the power user. But they can ship 21 units to dealers in California for $175 a unit, just a little more than it costs us to ship a unit in the Southeast. So how can I eliminate the waste? Aha! Who do we know that does configured to order throughout the United States and does it very inexpensively and very economically? Subway, of course. So Subway has an ideal model. They basically ship bags of lettuce, tomatoes, peppers to the local shop, and they have the rolls, and they make them before your very eyes based on your exact specifications. So, how can we do that? That's my dilemma. That's my question. So, here's my hypothesis, and I'd very much welcome input from everyone here. So, the plan I have is to ship kits to very localized final assembly centers. And I think from AGCO's example that they're on to a very similar proposition. But I don't know to what extent, and I'll be very interested, they're configuring to order with all the permutations for the specific application. So we can ship 56 kits from Atlanta to California with 56 frames, nested parts, plus 4 pallets of additional components, and then source the tires and the batteries locally. Gets our cost down to $45 per unit. In addition, it allows us to get to the point where we can actually deliver in 48 hours. Right now, our lead time is 3 weeks. We get an order, we don't produce anything till we have an order, we assemble it in Atlanta, we ship it, and we ship within 3 weeks. By doing this and having the components all in these final assembly facilities, which might be no more than a couple of thousand feet, we will be able to have only $45 in freight, a little over 1%, and we will be able to deliver, ship a final product for the final mile for $45. So I welcome feedback from the panel. My email is here. We're at Modex booth 8531. If anybody doesn't have a chance to give me your thoughts, because I'm sure there are a lot of refinements, and I may be totally off in terms of my hypothesis. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Probably know how to do this, right? Okay, thank you. Randy.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Paige, for allowing me to represent the Boeing Company, wherever you are, at the 2014 Georgia Logistics Summit. This is actually my first summit that I've ever spoken at, actually my first public speaking event. So I wasn't really chosen for my charismatic speaking ability, but we'll try to get through it. So I'll be providing a Boeing perspective on supply chain strategies, supporting platforms in commercial, military, and space markets. If you've been to the airport, you've flown on a plane, you've probably flown a Boeing aircraft. If you got GPS on your phone or in your car, we probably did the satellite. This slide kind of gives you a good overview of what the Boeing company is, what our capabilities are, and what it represents is a history of many heritage-type companies coming together. In the aerospace industry, you have Boeing, you have Hughes, you have McDonnell Douglas. Before there was McDonnell, there was Douglas, and 68, Douglas and McDonnell merged, and you have McDonnell Douglas. And so over the past few decades, we became this, kind of a hodgepodge of aerospace companies and capabilities. So it's created an integrated company that can bring a combination of commercial, military, space solutions around the world. The Boeing Company is the world's largest, most diversified aerospace company in the world. Our strategy is one Boeing, people first, customer always. So you say one Boeing, you've got Chinooks produced in Philadelphia, you've got Apache helicopters produced in Mesa, Arizona, C-17 produced in Huntington, or in Long Beach, California. You have F-18, F-15s produced in St. Louis. You've got commercial product lines up in Seattle. For the military side, the KC-46, 737, 767 tactical derivative type aircraft, and these type of commercial airplanes. So how do you bring all those companies together? Because remember, they had their own cultures, they had their own supply chains, and how do you become one Boeing? And I would submit to you that we're on the journey and we're almost there. The Boeing Company is organized into two major divisions: Boeing Commercial Airplanes. And if I say something wrong, I have a commercial guy, and he'll point at me because I work on the defense side. And Boeing Defense, Space, and Security. Boeing Commercial Airplanes are 75% of the world's fleet. 70% of our sales are international. There are 12,000 jetliners in service today, and Boeing Commercial has 85,000 employees. The Boeing Defense and Space and Security, we're 49% of the world's defense aircraft. We're the #1 provider of sustainment and services. We're a provider of advanced technology solutions, and we have 59,000 employees on the BDS side. From one Boeing perspective, we are the top exporter in the United States and within the top 10 importers. Coupled with our engineering reach back, original equipment manufacturing knowledge, supply chain capabilities, we can support a wide customer base. To put this into perspective, in 2013, and these are canned speeches that Boeing allows us to do, so it's really not mine. So I went and fact checked some of these facts, but in 2013 we delivered 1.2 billion parts, and to put that in perspective, that's the number of Facebook users there are active today. So, I've been asked from a Boeing Defense, Space and Security, everybody says, hey, where is Boeing headquartered? Is it headquartered out of Chicago, Seattle, St. Louis? The answer to that is yes. It is. And, corporately out of Chicago, but from a Boeing Defense, Space and Security, it's out of St. Louis, Missouri. We're nearly $33 billion a year business, like I said, with 59,000 employees. It is compiled of 3 different business units: Boeing Military Aircraft, which is BMA, that represents the production side of the house, where we're the world's largest military aircraft manufacturer. We do Network and Space, we're the world's largest satellite manufacturer, and Global Services and Support, which is whom I work for, and we're sustainment of what we produce. We're the largest performance-based logistics contractor, and I think that's from a GS&S standpoint. We may not be the largest sustainment, but we are the largest performance-based provider, and we'll get into that. And this is kind of the revenue mix on the defense side. So out of all those aircraft, I would say by and large, the majority of those aircraft are supported. Does anybody know where we do distribution for our aircraft for the BDS? Right here in Georgia. BDS, so from a, you know, I am the design logistics senior manager, so I own the design of the distribution network. And when we talk about One Boeing, that is myself and my counterpart on the commercial side, which they have a regional store here in Atlanta, and they do their Seattle distribution. So some of the tactical derivative, the spares do come out of Seattle, but the global distribution happens right here in Georgia. So if you look at the kind of the org chart, you start at the Boeing corporate, then it goes down to Boeing Defense and Space. Then you have global services and support, which is where I tree under. Then you have supply chain management. There's a VP of supply chain management. And then under supply chain management is design logistics. Some GS&S SCM facts. There are 1,200 employees supporting GS&S worldwide. We handle 15,200 RFPs a year for requests for quotes for parts. The number of purchase contracts number 57,100, and the number of changes are 100,000. That's if the customer comes in and says, hey, I want to change what we have to 208. What this is, from the spectrum of the services that we provide, you know, from the test and development and defining spares and repair solutions. So we do some reverse logistics where we bring them back through our distribution network, and the unserviceables come back in. We send the serviceables out. They put them on the jet. They take the bad parts in, and they come back through the distribution center. We develop those solutions for them. You know, through the production cycle, you know, we do some production here, and I mentioned the other sites, but there's the Macon facility here in Georgia where we do some production, and then post-production services, which is a lot of where I come in. But if you look across the spectrum from the transactional, those are the RFPs that you've seen where the customer comes in and says, hey, I need this part, I want to buy it. If you go to the partnerships and over to those are the PBLs where we're hired to be a total tip-to-tail solution, you know, such as the C-17, where we're responsible for the engineering, production, sustainment, retrofit, and things like that. From a capability standpoint, warehousing and inventory management. Again, I'm responsible for warehousing and inventory management. We have here in Atlanta, like I said, we do. It's my goal to bring the bulk of our distribution from programs into Atlanta, just because Hartsfield has more takeoffs and landings than any other airport in the world. So that's my, you know, part of my strategy behind that. And, you know, we can get parts on aircraft all day long. From a commercial side of the house, they have about 43,000 orders annually, 1,400 boxes, 313 shipments, mostly being surface. You know, from the defense side, these are inbounds for them. On the inbounds for me, about 63,000 inbound, 87,000 outbound, 25,000 international. For the outbound on the commercial, 295,000 orders come right out of this regional store here. 1,100 different customers. 178,000 of them are domestic, and 117,000 orders are export. So if you go to the little sourcing and subcontracting, if you look from a One Boeing standpoint, I told you that we're leveraging commercial because there's warehousing and production, there's warehousing and post-production. If you look at the two, Boeing Commercial and Boeing Defense and Space, there's warehousing in Boeing Commercial and Boeing Defense and Space. And as you go to global sustainment and support, you had many aircraft platforms. You saw them, the Chinooks. the Apaches, the different things. Remember, they're produced at different states, and there's like 197 different programs. So if you weren't one Boeing, you'd be 197 different supply chains. So let's see, so from a sourcing and subcontracting, oh, by the way, we outsource all of our touch labor associated with warehousing. I'm responsible for the contracts, for the 3PLs, and as we grow, we go out and we compete this business, and it's a company strategy. We are not going to do it in-house. I also, not only do I own the warehousing and distribution, I have kitting under my responsibility, where we do production kits for retrofit, where we actually manufacture a kit, which is just a box of parts, send it out to a manufacturing facility. They break it down, and then they present it for Flightline for install. And from the sourcing standpoint, one of the things that Boeing has done from one Boeing standpoint, you have procurement in each one of these things. How do you leverage the greater Boeing? They've cored up their procurement. Let's go to the next. Just wanted to show you some Georgia capabilities. 728 employees. I don't know if that includes me because I am in Georgia. I'm just a virtual employee. There's 1,628 retirees here in Georgia, and so here's some of the product lines that they actually manufacture here in Georgia. For the C-17, I know they do the lower half of the forward part of the fuselage, and they do some work for the Chinook, the A-10. And that ROR down there, that means repair of reparables. Remember I told you we bring the material back in that comes off the jets through our distribution center. We do have some repair capability in Macon for that. Kind of history of the Georgia facilities, kind of what a PBL is, the 787. We do it on the commercial, we do it in the government, but this is where we're integrated with our customers' ordering system, and we maintain. It's not about them placing orders. It's about flight availability. How many aircraft do you have available to use to earn revenue, for the seats that are in those jets or to be mission ready? Again, people first, customer always. That's it.
Thanks, Randy, Bob, and Monty, and Jack. We're running out of time, so I had prepared some questions, but I'd rather hear from you. I think we have some people back there with microphones. Raise your hand if you've got a question for any of our panelists or a general one, and we've got one up front here. Keep your hand. Go ahead, I'll repeat it.
Gilbert with Jones Lang LaSalle, and Monty, got a question for you. Spoke about the growth of your firm. Technical textiles, young folks, what are some of the things that y'all have spoken about to help you leverage that new business and bring in young talent from Columbus?
I think the question is how are we attracting talent to the textile business industry, particularly in Columbus? That's a great question. Thank you. We actually have an ongoing engagement with Auburn University through their merchandising school, through Georgia Tech, through Savannah College of Art and Design, where we bring through a lot of the young designers, because we will see them again soon out in the field. From an engineering standpoint, we work heavily with Columbus Tech has a terrific technical school there. So we're bringing in a lot of our maintenance folks, a lot of our supervisory folks through the technical school. So that's where we're bringing them in at this point. And we try to do that on a regular basis. In fact, I would say we probably have one tour a month come through of either high school or college kids through the plant for one reason or the other. Mainly just to get to know them and get to know us, because it's amazing how many people don't think that there's an industry left at all. So thank you for the question.
Another question? All right, I've got one then. Okay. My question's general, and anybody from the panel can answer it. Is manufacturing coming back to America, and in what way? Because I know Jack, you talked about what's going on with your company there. Maybe you could start us off in terms of where you see that going.
Yeah, yes. I think the answer is that you're seeing globalization. There's a lot of movement that's going out. There's a lot of movement that's coming back in. But certainly when you get into what used to be best cost countries, they no longer are. China is an example. You know, in some cases that the labor rates in China have gone up significantly. And so those things are being resourced into other countries. There's also a capability that you've got to look at, and you've got to look at things like engineering skills and so on that play into this discussion. But so I think that things are moving around. I think that we are seeing some nearshoring that's going on. That seems to be a current trend, and the reason for that is combination of quality, made in America, and so on, that sense of pride. But overall, I would say there's a shift. I don't know specifically if that means that it's coming back, but certainly are indications that way.
Yeah, in January, we had our annual, every year we go through and we evaluate how we did against our plan and lay out, and everybody hold hands, sing Kumbaya around the new plan for the year. And we actually had one of our speakers that came in for a meeting. He was the editor of Textile World, which is obviously a journal publication. And he wrote an article, and he came down and spoke to us on it, that based on the announced plant openings for textiles, and this is primarily polymers and this is primarily yarn producers, the announced plans, if you just added them all up, it was $1.8 billion worth of planned investment coming back into this hemisphere. So I don't think anybody in the textile industry is shutting anything down, but as you want to expand and grow, and particularly take advantage of the low cost of cotton, and energy is a huge cost of ours. U.S. cotton is the cheapest in the world. It's best quality, but the cheapest in the world. And our power rates are some of the best in the world as well. So I was really surprised when I saw that. But it's $1.8 billion worth of textile announced investments for this hemisphere. And for the states, I should say.
Yes, I think the trend that both myself and Jack talked about in terms of having production near the end user customer is certainly a global trend. We supply products of the types that we make to manufacturing to move things just in time from the supplier warehouses to the final production line. Auto production, as we all know, has dramatically increased here in the Southeast. That a lot of car models that were produced overseas are now produced here to be close to the end user. I think you're all, or probably many of you are familiar up in Louisville with Appliance Park, General Electric's vast manufacturing campus that they built. And back in 2009, they were trying to sell because all of the production basically had gone offshore. Now, Appliance Park, all the buildings are full. They still have some avocado green refrigerators hanging from the conveyor system on around the ceiling as a memorial to the old days. But the durable goods, whether it's automobiles or appliances, is coming back to get the final assembly closer to the end user. So the very trend that Jack and I are talking about and trying to do in our business is better.
Okay. Also, I think just about everybody mentioned something about innovation. Maybe we could start, Randy, with you in terms of what is Boeing doing in terms of logistics around innovation, and maybe others could chime in as well.
So currently, I have the relationship with the 3PLs, and what we're doing is we're making a significant investment in our IT. I think it was mentioned, somebody else mentioned it, I believe it was Jack. When you use a third party, do they get the ASNs that your suppliers send to you because they're using their system? Are they more efficient if they use their system? And so we've made the call that, yes, we would like them. And remember, Boeing's a big company. So I would say on the commercial side, they're still using a Boeing system. I'm migrating to an integration, so the supplier can use theirs, and there's efficiencies gained in there. But it's a significant investment, and we've been working on it since 2010.
as we all know, the cost of employees is a huge percentage of all costs and everything that we do. So a big part of our business has to do with automation and eliminating the requirements of adding more personnel. So all businesses, and logistics in particular, is obviously focused on trying to streamline and remove the human step in the transaction to the maximum extent that you can. We're focused on that both within our company in terms of trying to minimize the amount of new hiring that we have to do, and also focusing on it as the source of growth in our company for the products we deliver. So we're now doing automated guided vehicles. We do lithium ion to eliminate the service requirements. So all of that plays into innovation.
I'm not a logistics expert, but I can tell you, we echo the same thing as Bob. We try to have a very light touch on everything that we do so it's not excessively handled. We are very, very lean, to produce about 24 million yards of fabric with 250 people. You very, very light touch there. So trying to just take as many things out of the process and keep it as lean as possible. And that's just an ongoing basis with us.
All right, well, we've run over by about 10 or so minutes here, so I'll let you guys go. And thanks to our panelists.
Just a last little, just a last little housekeeping note. We're going to take about a 30-minute break. We've got another panel with Starbucks and Baxter and Toyo Tires and Southwire in our growth and expansion panel and learn about some of the things that are growing and expanding here in our state. We're going to come back in here at 4 o'clock. So there's coffee, believe it or not, outside. There's some brownies and cookies, which are really good. So go have a snack, get some coffee, and we'll meet you back here at 4 o'clock.